The cafeteria went dead silent when she walked in. Not because she was beautiful. Not because she was famous. But because Maya Rodriguez had just done something impossible. Let me take you back to where it all started. Every morning at 5 a.m., while soldiers were still sleeping, a small figure moved quietly across Fort Carson training grounds. Maya Rodriguez, 24 years old. Equipment maintenance specialist. Nobody paid attention to her. She was just another civilian contractor. Another face in the crowd. Her job was simple: clean the weapons, organize ammunition, check the shooting equipment. Basic stuff that nobody wanted to do. But Maya had a secret. Every single day she watched. She learned. She memorized everything. When Sergeant Miller adjusted his rifle scope, Maya noticed exactly how much he turned the dial. When Private Johnson complained about his shots going left, Maya saw the problem immediately: his breathing was wrong. When the wind changed direction, Maya felt it before the experienced snipers did. The soldiers never asked her opinion. They barely knew her name. "Hey, maintenance girl," they would shout. "Clean this rifle when you're done." Maya just smiled and nodded. But inside, she was calculating wind speed, temperature, humidity, everything that affects a perfect shot. Maya's day started before sunrise. She would arrive at the base with a thermos of coffee and a small notebook tucked in her pocket. First stop, the armory. She would inspect every rifle, checking for wear, cleaning the barrels, ensuring the scopes were properly mounted. But while cleaning, she was learning. She memorized the serial number of every weapon. She knew which rifles shot high, which ones pulled left, which scopes held zero better than others. The soldiers thought she was just wiping down metal. She was actually building a database in her mind. Second stop, the ammunition storage. Maya would count bullets, organize boxes, check for damaged rounds. But she was also studying ballistics. She knew the difference between match-grade ammunition and standard military rounds. She understood how different bullets performed at various distances. Third stop, the shooting range itself. Maya would set up targets, check the range flags, measure distances. This was her favorite part. She would spend hours watching soldiers practice. She saw their mistakes. She understood their problems. She knew how to fix every error they made. But nobody asked her opinion. During lunch breaks, while soldiers rested in the shade, Maya would stand near the 1,000-yard line. She would study the wind patterns, watch how heat waves affected visibility, memorize how shadows moved across the targets. She was preparing for something she didn't even know was coming. To the men of Fort Carson, Maya was invisible. Sergeant Miller saw her as the quiet girl who kept his rifle clean. Private Johnson thought she was just another civilian taking up space. Corporal Davis barely acknowledged her existence. They had no idea that Maya could field strip an M24 rifle faster than any of them. They didn't know she could calculate windage and elevation adjustments in her head. They never suspected that she understood ballistics better than their instructors. Maya wore the same gray coveralls every day. She kept her black hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She never wore makeup or jewelry. She looked like exactly what she was supposed to be: invisible support staff. But invisibility was her superpower. While the soldiers showed off for each other, Maya learned from their mistakes. While they argued about technique, Maya quietly tested their theories. While they complained about difficult shots, Maya figured out solutions. She was becoming an expert while pretending to be a beginner. Every evening after work, Maya drove 30 minutes to a civilian shooting range outside town. The owner, an old Vietnam veteran named Frank, had known Maya's grandfather. He let her use the range for free in exchange for helping with maintenance. This is where Maya's real education happened. Frank had been a Marine sniper in the same unit as Maya's grandfather. He knew stories Maya had never heard. "Your grandfather Carlos wasn't just good," Frank told her one evening. "He was legendary. Some of the shots he made, nobody believed them until they saw the proof." Frank became Maya's second teacher. He showed her advanced techniques her grandfather never had time to teach. Long-range shooting in different weather conditions. How to read terrain and use it to your advantage. The psychology of precision shooting, how to control your mind under pressure. Maya spent hours on that civilian range. She fired thousands of rounds. She practiced until her shoulders ached and her eyes burned. But she never told anyone at Fort Carson about her training. She wanted to prove herself on her own merit, not because of her grandfather's reputation. After 6 months of watching soldiers struggle with basic marksmanship, Maya was getting frustrated. She could see every mistake they made. Private Johnson was jerking the trigger instead of squeezing smoothly. Corporal Davis wasn't compensating for wind drift. Sergeant Miller's scope was slightly off zero, causing all his shots to hit low. Maya knew how to fix these problems. But nobody would listen to a maintenance worker. She started writing detailed observations in her notebook. Day 127, wind from southwest at 8 miles per hour, gusting to 12. Temperature 89 degrees. Private Johnson's group size could improve by 40% if he controlled his breathing better. Day 145, Corporal Davis attempted 800-yard shot. Hit 6 inches left of target. Didn't account for crosswind. With proper windage adjustment, shot would have been center mass. Day 156, new recruits arrived. Teaching them bad habits from day one. If someone doesn't correct their fundamentals now, they'll struggle for years. Maya's notebook became a detailed record of every problem she witnessed. She was building a case for change, even though she didn't know when she'd get to present it. Maya's grandfather, Carlos Rodriguez, had been more than just a Marine sniper. He was a legend. 3 tours in Vietnam. 87 confirmed kills. Medal of Honor recipient. But the war had broken him. He came home with PTSD nightmares, and a drinking problem that nearly destroyed his family. Maya's grandmother left him when Maya was young. Said she couldn't watch him destroy himself anymore. Carlos was alone with his demons until Maya turned 12. That's when he decided to teach her everything he knew. Mija, he told her, shooting isn't about killing. It's about precision, control, respect for the weapon and the responsibility it represents. Every weekend they would drive to a remote ranch outside town. Carlos taught Maya to shoot starting with a .22 rifle. Then a .308 hunting rifle. Finally, when she turned 16, he let her try his old M40 sniper rifle from Vietnam. Maya was a natural. By 17 she could consistently hit targets at 800 yards. By 18 she was making shots that impressed even Carlos. You have a gift, Mija, he told her. But gifts mean nothing without discipline. Practice every day. Study every shot. Never stop learning. Carlos died when Maya was 19. Heart attack, brought on by years of stress and self-medication. Maya found him in his workshop, cleaning the M40 rifle. His last words to her had been, "Promise me you'll use what I taught you to help people." Maya made that promise. She just didn't know how she would keep it. 6 months into her job at Fort Carson, everything changed. Colonel Harrison announced a special demonstration for Pentagon officials. The military was facing budget cuts. Programs were being eliminated. Bases were being closed. Fort Carson needed to prove its value. Gentlemen, Colonel Harrison addressed his senior staff, this demonstration could determine our future. We need to show these officials that Fort Carson produces the finest marksmen in the Army. The plan was simple. The base's best snipers would demonstrate precision shooting at various distances. 600 yards. 800 yards. 1,000 yards. Perfect shots would secure funding. Missed shots would mean budget cuts. Maya heard about the demonstration while cleaning rifles in the armory. Her heart started racing. This was the opportunity she had been preparing for without knowing it. But how could a maintenance worker get involved in a high-level military demonstration? Maya spent that night staring at the ceiling, thinking. She had 6 years of training with her grandfather. 6 months of studying Fort Carson's shooting range. Thousands of hours of practice at the civilian range. She was ready for this moment. She just needed someone to give her a chance. The demonstration was scheduled for noon on a Tuesday in July. Maya arrived at the base early as always. But today felt different. She could sense the tension in the air. Soldiers were nervous. Officers were checking and rechecking equipment. Maya went through her normal routine, but her mind was racing. She had made a decision during the sleepless night. She was going to find a way to participate in this demonstration. Her grandfather's voice echoed in her mind, "Mija, talent without opportunity is worthless. But when opportunity comes, you must be ready to seize it." Maya was ready. She had been ready for 6 months. At 0800 hours, Colonel Harrison gathered his best shooters for a final briefing. Maya was cleaning weapons nearby, invisible as always. "Gentlemen," the colonel said, "today's demonstration will determine Fort Carson's future. Pentagon officials will be watching. Defense contractors will be evaluating our capabilities." He pointed to a map of the shooting range. "We'll demonstrate precision shooting at 600, 800 and 1,000 yards. Each shooter gets 3 attempts at each distance. We need perfect performance." Maya listened carefully. She knew these distances intimately. She had studied every variable that could affect accuracy at these ranges. Wind patterns, temperature variations, light conditions, mirage effects. She probably understood the challenges better than any of the soldiers in that briefing. "Any questions?" Colonel Harrison asked. Maya wanted to raise her hand. She wanted to share her observations, offer suggestions, help improve their chances of success. But she stayed silent. She was just the maintenance girl. As the morning progressed, Maya noticed several problems developing. The wind was picking up. Starting from the southwest at 5 miles per hour, now gusting to 15 miles per hour. The temperature was rising faster than predicted. Already 95 degrees by 10 a.m. Heat mirages were forming over the 1,000-yard target, making precise aiming difficult. Maya checked the range flags and wind indicators. The conditions were becoming challenging for long-range shooting. She wanted to warn someone, but who would listen? Instead, she updated her notebook with detailed observations. Wind shifting to west-southwest, 10 to 15 miles per hour gusts. Temperature rising rapidly, creating thermal updrafts. Mirage patterns indicating difficult shooting conditions by noon. Maya knew these conditions would cause problems for the demonstration. But she also knew exactly how to compensate for them. At 1,130 hours, a convoy of black SUVs arrived at Fort Carson. Pentagon officials, defense contractors, military budget analysts, people who controlled millions of dollars in funding. Maya watched from a distance as they were briefed on the demonstration. These were serious people with serious power. They weren't here for entertainment. They were here to evaluate whether Fort Carson deserved continued funding. Maya felt the weight of responsibility. This demonstration could affect the jobs of everyone on the base, including her own. At exactly 1,200 hours, the demonstration began. The July sun was blazing. Temperature had reached 98 degrees. Wind was gusting unpredictably between 12 and 18 miles per hour. Maya stood behind the safety barriers, watching with growing concern. These were difficult conditions for precision shooting. The soldiers took their positions at the 600-yard line. First up, Sergeant Miller, Fort Carson's most experienced marksman. Maya held her breath as he settled into position. She could see from his body language that he was struggling with the wind. His first shot, 4 inches right of center. His second shot, 6 inches high. His third shot, 2 inches left. Decent grouping, but not the perfection they needed. Pentagon officials scribbled notes. Their expressions were neutral, but Maya could sense disappointment. Private Johnson was next. Maya watched him set up his shot. She could see he was overcorrecting for the wind. His breathing was irregular. His grip on the rifle was too tight. All fixable problems, but nobody was coaching him. Johnson's 3 shots scattered across a 8-inch group. Acceptable for combat, but embarrassing for a demonstration. Corporal Davis stepped up for the final attempt at 600 yards. Maya noticed his scope mount was slightly loose. She wanted to run forward and tighten it, but she stayed in place. Davis fired 3 rounds. All 3 hit low and left. Maya knew exactly why. The loose scope mount was affecting his zero. A simple fix that would have taken 30 seconds. But Davis didn't know about the problem. And Maya couldn't tell him. The demonstration moved to the 800-yard line. Conditions were getting worse. Heat mirages were dancing above the targets. Wind was swirling unpredictably. Maya checked her notebook. According to her calculations, shooters would need to adjust their point of aim by at least 6 inches to compensate for current conditions. But nobody was making those adjustments. Sergeant Miller fired first. Mississippi hit on the outer ring. Private Johnson followed. Mississippi miss. Corporal Davis tried next. Hit on the edge. Mississippi miss. Maya felt sick watching this disaster unfold. These were good soldiers making preventable mistakes. By the time they reached the 1,000-yard line, the demonstration was already a failure. Pentagon officials were checking their phones. Defense contractors were whispering among themselves. Colonel Harrison's face was red with embarrassment and frustration. But the soldiers had to complete the demonstration. 1,000 yards in these conditions was extremely challenging, even for expert shooters. Maya knew it would take perfect technique and precise calculations to succeed. Sergeant Miller took position for the first attempt. Maya watched him struggle with the math. Wind speed, direction, temperature, distance. Too many variables for quick mental calculation. His first shot missed completely. His second shot hit the edge of the target. His third shot missed again. Private Johnson and Corporal Davis fared even worse. Between the 3 soldiers, they managed only 2 hits on the 1,000-yard target. Out of 9 attempts, it was a complete disaster. During the ceasefire break, Maya saw Lieutenant Rodriguez walking toward her. He looked frustrated and embarrassed. "Maya," he said, "you've been watching this whole demonstration. You know these weapons better than anyone. What's going wrong? Maya looked around nervously. Sir, I'm not sure I should. Forget protocol, Rodriguez interrupted. We're getting destroyed out there. If you have any insights, I need to hear them. Maya opened her notebook. The wind has shifted 20 degrees since this morning, she said. It's now coming from due west at 15 miles per hour, gusting to 20. The temperature is causing significant thermal updrafts. The mirage patterns indicate the bullets are being pushed up and right by approximately 8 inches at 1,000 yards. Rodriguez stared at her detailed calculations. How do you know all this? I've been studying this range for 6 months, sir. I record conditions every day. Can you make those calculations for the next round of shooting? Maya nodded. Yes, sir. But the soldiers would need to adjust their aiming points and their scope settings. What else? Corporal Davis's scope mount is loose. It's affecting his zero by about 3 inches. Private Johnson is gripping the rifle too tightly and jerking the trigger. Sergeant Miller's breathing rhythm is off because he's nervous. Rodriguez was amazed by her detailed observations. You can see all that from here? I've been watching them practice for months. I know their patterns and their problems. Rodriguez made a decision that would change everything. Come with me. We're going to talk to Colonel Harrison. Sir, Lieutenant Rodriguez approached Colonel Harrison during the break. I have an unusual suggestion. Colonel Harrison was not in the mood for suggestions. His demonstration was failing. His soldiers were embarrassing the base. His career was potentially on the line. This better be good, Rodriguez. Sir, our equipment maintenance specialist has been studying this range for months. She understands the current conditions better than anyone here. She has suggestions that could help our shooters. Colonel Harrison looked at Maya with surprise. You want me to take shooting advice from a maintenance worker? Sir, she's Gunnery Sergeant Carlos Rodriguez's granddaughter. The name hit Colonel Harrison like a physical blow. Every Marine knew that name. Carlos Rodriguez was a legend. Medal of Honor recipient. One of the greatest military snipers in history. Rodriguez, you're Carlos Rodriguez's granddaughter? Maya nodded. Yes, sir. What do you know about shooting? Maya took a deep breath. My grandfather trained me from age 12 to 18. I've been practicing for 6 years. I understand ballistics, wind compensation, and precision shooting techniques. Colonel Harrison studied her for a long moment. The demonstration was already a disaster. His reputation was already damaged. What did he have to lose? What do you suggest? Maya opened her notebook and showed him her calculations. The current conditions require specific adjustments for each distance. I can provide the exact corrections needed for successful shots. Colonel Harrison examined her detailed notes. The math was perfect. The observations were professional grade. This was the work of someone who truly understood precision shooting. You think you can help our soldiers hit their targets? I can tell them exactly where to aim and how to adjust their scopes. Colonel Harrison made a desperate decision. All right. But if this doesn't work, it's your career too, Rodriguez. The coaching session. During the next break, Maya quickly briefed the 3 soldiers. Sergeant Miller, your breathing is too fast. Slow it down to 1 breath every 8 seconds. Aim 6 inches right and 2 inches high to compensate for wind and thermal updrafts. Private Johnson, relax your grip. You're squeezing the rifle too hard. Let it rest naturally in your hands. Aim 8 inches right and 3 inches high. Corporal Davis, your scope mount is loose. Tighten this screw here. Then adjust your elevation 2 clicks up and your windage 4 clicks right. The soldiers looked skeptical. A maintenance worker was giving them shooting advice? But their previous performance had been so bad, they were willing to try anything. The soldiers returned to their positions with Maya's adjustments. Pentagon officials had agreed to watch one more round of shooting. This was Fort Carson's last chance. Sergeant Miller fired first. Using Maya's corrections, his first shot hit dead center. His second shot was also center mass. His third shot was perfect. Pentagon officials stopped checking their phones. Private Johnson followed Maya's advice. He relaxed his grip and controlled his breathing. His 3 shots formed a tight group in the center of the target. Corporal Davis, with his scope properly tightened and adjusted, delivered 3 consecutive bullseyes. The 1,000-yard line was suddenly looking achievable. As the soldiers prepared for the final 1,000-yard shots, Maya felt her grandfather's presence. This was why he had trained her. This was why she had spent 6 months studying this range. This was why she had practiced thousands of hours at the civilian range. To help these soldiers succeed when it mattered most. Sergeant Miller took his position at 1,000 yards. Maya had given him precise calculations for the extreme distance. Aim 14 inches right and 6 inches high, she had told him. Control your breathing. Trust the math. His first shot hit the target. His second shot was closer to center. His third shot was a bullseye. Pentagon officials were now paying full attention. Private Johnson and Corporal Davis followed with similarly improved performance. The demonstration was suddenly a success. But Colonel Harrison had one more idea. The coin glinted in the desert sun as Colonel Harrison held it high. "Miss Rodriguez," he called out. "One shot. One impossible target. Show them what Carlos Rodriguez's granddaughter can really do." Maya's hands trembled as she reached for the rifle. The entire range fell silent. Pentagon officials looked confused. Who was this maintenance worker? Defense contractors checked their programs. This wasn't on the schedule. Maya felt every eye on her. "What distance, sir?" Colonel Harrison thought for a moment. The demonstration had been salvaged, but he wanted to end with something memorable. Something that would guarantee Fort Carson's funding. 1,000 yards, he said. But not at a paper target. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a silver dollar. "I'm going to throw this coin into the air. I want you to hit it before it lands." Complete silence. Someone in the crowd laughed nervously. "Sir, that's impossible," Sergeant Miller whispered. Maya stared at the coin. Her grandfather had taught her about shooting moving targets. They had practiced with clay pigeons, thrown bottles, even tossed coins. But never at 1,000 yards. Never with this much pressure. Never with her career on the line. "I understand if you don't want to attempt it," Colonel Harrison said. "It's an extremely difficult shot." Maya thought about her grandfather. His voice came back to her. "Mija, impossible is just another word for unpracticed. If you've done the work, trust your training." She had done the work. 6 years with her grandfather. 6 months studying this range. Thousands of practice rounds. She was as ready as she would ever be. "I'll take the shot, sir." Preparing for the impossible. Maya walked to the firing line. Every step felt surreal. 6 months ago she was invisible. Now she was the center of attention for the most important demonstration in Fort Carson's history. She selected an M24 rifle from the rack. The same model her grandfather had used in Vietnam. Maya performed a complete function check in 15 seconds. Her hands moved with unconscious precision. Bolt action smooth. Trigger clean. Scope properly mounted. She loaded one match-grade cartridge. Federal gold medal match, 168 grain Sierra Match King. The same ammunition she had practiced with for years. Maya settled into the prone position. The rifle became an extension of her body. She adjusted the scope for the current conditions. Wind, 15 miles per hour from the west. Temperature, 99 degrees. Humidity, 15%. Barometric pressure, 29.85 inches. All variables that affected bullet trajectory. Maya made her calculations. At 1,000 yards, with current conditions, she needed to aim 16 inches right and 8 inches high. But the coin would be moving. Falling at 32 feet per second squared. She would have to lead the target and time her shot perfectly. Maya controlled her breathing. In through the nose. Hold for 3 seconds. Out through the mouth. Her heart rate slowed from 100 beats per minute to 60. This was the zone her grandfather had taught her to find. Complete focus. Total concentration. "Ready?" Colonel Harrison called out. "Ready, sir." Colonel Harrison walked to the 50-yard line. He held the silver dollar up so everyone could see it. The coin was about the size of a quarter. At 1,000 yards, it would appear smaller than a pinhead through the scope. Maya would have less than 2 seconds to acquire the target, calculate the lead, and fire. One chance. One bullet. One impossible shot. Pentagon officials had their phones out, recording. This would either be the greatest demonstration shot in military history, or the most embarrassing failure. Maya found her natural point of aim. She focused on the area where the coin would fall. Her finger rested lightly on the trigger. Throwing the coin in 3, 2, 1. Colonel Harrison launched the silver dollar high into the desert air. The coin tumbled end over end, glinting in the sunlight. Maya tracked its arc through her scope. At the peak of its flight, 40 feet in the air, the coin seemed to pause for a split second. Then it began to fall. Maya led the target. She calculated the trajectory. She felt the wind on her face. At exactly the right moment, she squeezed the trigger. The M24 roared. The bullet streaked across 1,000 yards in 1.2 seconds. The silver dollar, falling at 25 feet per second, met the bullet in midair. The coin exploded into fragments. Perfect silence for 5 seconds. Then Colonel Harrison began to clap. Then Lieutenant Rodriguez joined him. Then every soldier on the range was applauding. Pentagon officials were cheering. Defense contractors were shaking their heads in amazement. Maya set the rifle down carefully. Tears were streaming down her face. Her grandfather would have been proud. Colonel Harrison walked to where the coin fragments had landed. He picked up the largest piece, about half of the original dollar. The bullet had hit it dead center. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced to the Pentagon officials, "this is what Fort Carson training produces. This is why we deserve your continued support." He walked back to Maya and pinned his unit insignia to her coveralls. "Miss Rodriguez, you no longer work for this unit. This unit works for you." The crowd erupted in applause again. Maya was overwhelmed. 6 months of invisibility had ended with one impossible shot. But the real victory wasn't the shot itself. It was proving that excellence can come from anywhere. That the quiet, overlooked person might be exactly who you need. That preparation and opportunity, when they meet, create miracles. News of Maya's shot spread throughout the military within hours. Videos of the demonstration went viral on social media. Fort Carson's funding was not only maintained, it was increased. Maya was offered positions at elite military academies. Defense contractors wanted to hire her as a consultant. Shooting schools across the country invited her to teach. But Maya made a different choice. She accepted a position as Fort Carson's first civilian marksmanship instructor. Her job was to train soldiers in precision shooting techniques. To teach them the lessons her grandfather had taught her. To help them understand that excellence requires preparation, patience, and practice. 6 months later, Fort Carson had the highest marksmanship scores in the Army. Maya's training methods were adopted at bases worldwide. The soldiers who had once ignored her now called her coach. The quiet maintenance worker had become a legend. But she never forgot the most important lesson. Excellence doesn't need an audience. It just needs opportunity. Today, Maya runs the Rodriguez Precision Shooting Institute. Students come from around the world to learn her methods. Military units, police departments, competitive shooters, even Olympic athletes. But her favorite students are the overlooked ones. The support staff who dream of something more. The quiet people who others underestimate. The ones who remind her of herself. Everyone has potential, she tells them. But potential without preparation is worthless. Put in the work when nobody's watching. When your moment comes, you'll be ready. Maya keeps her grandfather's M40 rifle in her office. Next to it, in a frame, are the fragments of the silver dollar she shattered that day. A reminder that impossible shots are just unpracticed shots. And that sometimes one bullet can change everything. Before you dismiss someone as just maintenance, or just support. Before you assume the quiet person has nothing to offer. Before you judge capability by job title or appearance. Remember Maya Rodriguez. Remember the silver dollar that shattered into pieces. Remember that excellence often comes in unexpected packages. The person you overlook today might save your project tomorrow. The underestimated employee might have skills that could transform your organization. The quiet observer might be preparing for their perfect shot. Give them their chance. You might be amazed by what happens when invisible people finally step into the light. Sometimes all it takes is one shot to change everything. And when that shot hits its mark, the whole world remembers forever. Maya didn't need recognition to be excellent. She needed 6 years of preparation and 30 seconds of opportunity. The maintenance girl became a legend with one bullet. What could you become if someone gave you your shot?